Hi, Greta here. If you are new, I am taking you through the process of writing my second novel. And today I'm working on characters. I am very scared. I am honestly nervous, so I have some matcha here for moral support. Honestly, find developing the characters to be one of the trickiest parts about writing. There is this idea that characters are created, and I honestly find that hard to relate to. My mindset is more that these characters exist and I'm just kind of meeting them for the first time and getting to know them. I don't like this idea that we construct these characters. I don't know, it almost feels robotic to me, which might sound so weird, but I just feel like this part of the brainstorming is really about developing characters, not creating characters that are just completely new, but just meeting characters. I hope that makes sense. The tricky part for me is I usually have a pretty good idea of the two main characters when I start this brainstorming phase, but a lot of the other supportive characters are really nowhere to be found. I feel like they are just shy and hiding, and I literally have to go looking for them. I think there is this idea that creating a character is going to Pinterest and finding the most beautiful girl you can find, giving her an amazing name and all these amazing traits, and just building this like perfect character. But that feels just very artificial to me. I honestly don't think a whole lot about what they look like in this stage. I'm really better trying to understand what their story is, what are their wants, their needs, their lie, their ghost, and what is their overall arc and how do they change throughout the story. To be totally honest, I don't want to do a ton of work here because I feel like in the drafting process is when I'm going to really start to understand my characters. I personally don't gravitate towards these huge worksheets that are like 50 pages and have like, what does your character eat for breakfast, or what TV show do they watch? Like, that to me just feels very I don't want to say artificial, but there's just something that feels like I'm building a robot when I do things like that. I instead just want to spend some time, like I said earlier, understanding their wants, their desires, their needs, their story, and kind of what haunts them, and then how they're going to grow and change and what their arc is in the overall story. I feel like if I know those fundamentals, then as I'm drafting, I'm going to get to know them really well and be able to answer all those other questions. I recently watched an interview of Brandon Sanderson, and he gave some really interesting advice when it comes to characters. He was saying that you should try to remember that for your characters, their own personal stories don't start when you start writing. You have to think about what their story was before you even sat down and began your story. And I thought that was such an interesting way to look at it. He also gave some advice, which is to make sure that you're looking at every character as the protagonist in their own story. Even the most evil character is the hero in their own story, and so that was also a really interesting tip. I did find a worksheet online, and I'll go ahead and add the link in the description box for you if you would like to also go through it. But it's really great because it basically is getting you to think about the character's journey and transformation in the overall arc. There are prompts like describe this character's internal conflict, describe their external conflict, what's their greatest fear, what one line do they believe they never cross, how will you, the diabolical author, get them to cross it. I think these are such amazing prompts so I can really better understand my characters. And so I'm going to work through this now, and I'll check back in later. All right, there are words, which is my goal anytime I set aside a few hours for this brainstorming that I'm doing. I will be totally transparent in saying that this is getting me closer to feeling more confident and like the story has more structure, but it still has a long way to go. But what I do know is that that is what drafting is for. I'm not going to feel 100% when I sit down to write, at least I don't think so. And that is totally normal, and I don't need to be setting any unrealistic expectations here. Every little worksheet that I do or time that I take to explore this idea, it's only a positive thing. And so I'm really glad I took the time today, and I hope you'll join me in the next video. Until then, take care.